Poindexter video. Oh, cool.
Let's do that. We haven't done that on TV. I'm the fat.
So why don't you do that? I'm the fat guy. I'm the
Okay. Ready? You rolling?
Couple seconds.
I want to hear this sound.
The Week in Rock. Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Ready when you are.
Hi, I'm the fat guy.
And I'm the bald guy.
He shut the door.
Start again.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
All right. Hi, I'm the fat guy.
And I'm the bald guy.
Of They Might Be Giants.
And welcome to
The Week in Rock.
Let's do that again. Let's just do it. We'll do it. We'll get it. We'll get it.
Do one more time.
Are you gonna go rock?
The Week in Rock.
Okay, it's good. Ready? Hi, I'm the fat guy.
And I'm the bald guy.
Of They Might Be Giants.
And welcome to The Week in Rock.
Right.
That's really good. That was good.
Okay.
Okay. So,
We're cooking now. Phew. Doesn't get better than that.
Oh man.
Nice. That was nice.
Okay.
We're out of here.
so you got your John Linnell on the
That's right,
on
yeah.
the right. Let's just get your identification of things here. Identify yourselves, please.
Okay, this is for the
Just so
news
we know
thing.
when we look at the tape 20 years from now who's who.
Okay,
Okay.
this is John Linnell over here.
I'm John Flansburgh, the other guy.
Thank you. Now, which one of you guys is the one with the obsession about the World's Fair?
Uh-oh. Wow. Start over.
You see, all his questions are going to be flown in. So just if you can just do everything in complete.
I understand that. I'm just threw me for a loop there.
Basically, if one of
This
them
what,
gets going
Okay.
on, yeah,
what's this thing you got going about the World's Fair? You got Anna Ang's got
Okay.
a whole verse about
All
it,
right.
and you got a video about it. And
Okay. Some people think that They Might Be Giants have an obsession about the World's Fair. They think that because A, our video was shot at the World's Fair, B, there are 2 references on our brand new album, Lincoln, to the World's Fair, but it's not true. We don't have an obsession about the World's Fair. Right, John?
That's absolutely right, John. I'm glad you asked me that question.
So
Because
what are
we
your
don't have
memories of
a.
it? You went to the World's Fair, you must have been 5 years
Yeah.
old. What are your memories of it?
I was 4, John was 3, and we didn't actually know each other then, but I was walking under the giant moving dinosaur, and John was the kid who was remote controlling the giant moving dinosaur.
Which was pretty shocking, actually, to be. I was sort of led through a crowd to these sort of 2 robot control things and just sort of pushed a button, and all of a sudden this giant architectural dinosaur was moving at my every command. It was a feeling of power that rarely comes to a 3-year-old, and I think it's sort of scarred me emotionally
So how did
since.
this group get together?
Let's see. They met. Do you want to start?
Yeah,
this?
sure.
Okay.
How did this group get together? We've been playing out in New York City, actually. We both started in Brooklyn, but we've been playing in New York for about 5 years now. And things really started happening for us when the East Village scene kind of exploded. There were these clubs that were featuring very radically different kinds of entertainment, sort of performance art things, and wild shows that were much, much wilder than we'll ever be. And it was a good deal because they were encouraging us not to play Rolling Stones songs and, you know, basically do our original stuff. Clubs like the Pyramid Club and APC, probably places people have heard about now, but are not really happening.
So you got 18 songs on this album or 19 songs on this
That's
album?
right. Yeah, there was 19 songs on our first LP, which is self-titled They Might Be Giants. The second LP is Lincoln. It has 18 songs. Some people think we're counting down to that 19th album with 1 song on it. We don't
Hey
know whether
Jude.
that's going to happen yet.
The They Might Be Giants' Hey Jude album will just have 1 really, really long version of Hey Jude.
Right.
One really, really long coda.
Yeah.
Just fading continuously.
The Beatles, you know, they did Hey Jude okay, but I think if it had gone on for 15 or 20 minutes more, it would have been that much more effective a song.
So why is the group called They Might Be Giants?
Well, actually, there's a movie called They Might Be Giants, which is not the greatest movie ever made, but it's a reference to Don Quixote, and the windmills are giants. And as this is sort of a kind of a windmill chasing project, we thought it was appropriate. It was really just a set of words. We didn't really think at the time that people would think we were referring to ourselves, but of course, about a year later, when someone actually heard our name, we realized that that would be the response that everyone would have to it.
What instruments do you write your songs on?
Well, sometimes we just write our songs walking down the street singing, but I'd say in general nowadays it's between playing one of us playing our instrument and singing, or writing the song on the 4-track tape recorder, which is kind of the modern way to write songs.
We've pretty much done it like every possible way. I mean, I think how you write a song is, if you change it around, you'll write more songs. So because we want to write more, you try to think of different ways to do it. If you can write with a drum machine, then that's okay. Unfortunately, if you write too much with a drum machine, your melody starts sounding like. So.
What instruments do you play?
Okay, well, I play the accordion as well as other instruments on the album.
And I play the guitar, and we both sing. So.
That's right. The voice is an instrument.
So how did Anna Ann come about?
Well, it's basically a song. There's a cartoon I read as a kid in which a character shoots a gun through a globe to find out where the other side of the world is. So that was sort of the beginning of the idea. And after appropriating that idea, I kind of built the rest of the song on top of it. It's about somebody, the name Ang seems to be a Vietnamese name. There's about 3 pages of them in the Manhattan phone book. So if you look at the globe and find Vietnam, you'll see that the opposite side of the world from Vietnam is Peru. So the song presumably is about somebody in Peru writing about someone in Vietnam. But I didn't know that when I wrote it.
So you didn't have any like this sort of deep-seated ambition to be a woman from Vietnam or anything?
No, he just wants to be from Peru.
This isn't one of those confessional songs.
No. This is an explaining song.
It's a professional song.
So what's this imagery on the cover all about?
Well, actually, the people on the cover are our grandparents, or John's great-grandfather is on the left, the guy who looks like
one of the
Trotsky.
missing Smith brothers.
The guy, and my grandfather, Ralph Hospital, who looks like Stalin, is the other guy. So the guy who designed the shrine, a friend of ours, Brian Dewan, had the idea to put us on the cover, but then it seemed like it was sort of too much a shrine to us, which kind of made us feel funny. So we thought, how about just our ancestors? It seemed more interesting. People think that they're political figures that they should know, which is, again, we also did a video for Don't Let's Start with these big heads in them. That's our stage set. And people are constantly asking us, who's the guy? Right. And unfortunately, there's really no good story for either.
We basically dug our own graves with all these faces that people
Yeah.
think they're supposed to know. They're nobody. They're just faces.
Just faces. So why is it called Lincoln?
Well, basically it just seemed like a good American name. We grew up in a town called Lincoln, but it wasn't so much for sentimental reasons that we called it Lincoln. It just, seemed like a good car, a good tunnel.
Good log.
Real good log. Do you guys live in the same house or in the same apartment or the same building? Or?
No, we live about 3 blocks from each other in the town of Smarlborough in Brooklyn. We're right across from Manhattan. It's kind of expensive living in Manhattan these days, so it's sort of nicer out there in Smarlborough.
No, you lost your mind.
Well, I just thought maybe we didn't want to make a big deal out of about it.
What?
About where specifically we live. I don't know. Just a joke. Just
this
kidding.
is how group decisions are made.
That's right. Right here in this
Band
room.
conference.
Right.
Time.
What are your home lives like? Or do you have these big palatial loft apartments? Or
Nope. We
No.
we live in shabby little apartments the same way we've lived for the past 6 years in New York, and we haven't really made any plans to move to palatial mansions. We're kind of waiting for the giant boat full of money to move into New York Harbor, and that hasn't happened yet.
We are looking forward to being buried alive in cash, so our lives will change completely.
We'll die.
Yeah.
what's the first thing you're going to buy?
A really bad attitude. We're going to get really, really bad attitudes.
That's right.
We're going to stop talking to our friends and snub people in restaurants. No, nothing really. I mean,
We'll just be eating better, I think.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I would say the last year has definitely been a better year financially. I mean, we're no longer broke all the time. So, and nothing much has changed. I like where I live, so it's fine. I never really wanted to live in Manhattan anyway.
So did you know each other when you were growing up?
Yeah, John and I went to high school together in the town of Lincoln, and were sort of peripheral friends for a while, and then became good friends. We worked on the high school newspaper together, which was kind of this elaborate
Escape.
yeah. Nobody really read the newspaper in high school. I don't think people were really interested in it, except for the staff of the newspaper.
But you see, you got an
Really
office,
obsessed with it.
so you got to sort of get away from, like, hang out in the halls. You know, there were very few places to actually be outside of class, so it was a good way to sort of, play hooky on school grounds.
Right.
Yeah, you got to hang out after school and didn't have to go to a job or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what are like the big musical influences on the Unedited Giants? Are there any?
Well, the thing is, we went through this period in high school where we kind of, everyone we knew kind of went through this thing of hating all the stuff on the radio, and that was sort of the overwhelming attitude, was what we didn't like at that point. And then right around the time we were getting out of high school, all these bands started coming out of New York and England, and it seemed like things were turning around, and part of the thing was that you could play in a band without really being a total expert technical musician. So that was an important thing for us, since we were not technical expert musicians.
I think we sort of go more for songs and even other things that have kind of an X factor in them. Not necessarily that we like every Willie Nelson song, but we like the Willie Nelson song that's got the really spooky woman's voice in the background going, ah, and that's really the thing that sort of gets us going more than like a particular genre of music.
So that's that X factor.
Yeah.
So what bands were they when you getting out of high school? What bands came out?
Well, it's fun. I mean, it sounds sort of cliche to say this, but for example, the Ramones was like a band that seemed to be like just doing whatever they wanted to, and I think it was more the attitude than anything else. I mean, it wasn't that we were going to start doing 3-chord
Being the Ramones.
fast 2/4 songs, but that was a really sort of a door opening for us in terms of the attitude behind the music. We both really were into the songwritery people who came after that, like Elvis Costello and XTC, were bands that were kind of interested in the song form and really working from that perspective, as opposed to the sensitive trees of Norway, or just very personal kind of confessional music, which made us sick.
But now we're getting more into the Trees of Norway thing. I think you'll find our third album, Trees of Norway, will turn it all around for us.
That's right.
What did you do as day jobs? Do you still have day jobs now?
No. When we started the band, I was actually counting people on Metro North. That was my job. I was a people counter for the railroad, which pretty much consisted of standing in Grand Central Station with a clicker at a whatever bottleneck there I could find, and counting the people as they streamed by, which was sort of a strange job to have hundreds of thousands of people looking at you funny. They're like wondering what you're doing, and you start thinking that everybody in the world kind of looks like.
Did you get to wear a hat and a nice blue coat and everything?
No, because if you wore a uniform, then people would just start harassing you completely and complaining that the toilets were a mess.
Right.
It was a secret, covert job.
Well, I worked in a supermarket. That was my first job in New York, and basically just checked out people's stuff. And again, it was a job where I was sort of standing there watching people parade by. And of course, now our lives are exactly the same, because we still stand there and everybody looks at us as though we're, standing there.
So was the UPC code reader, like when that came in, was it a big event in your life?
No, we didn't have those at that point. I had to read the prices. We had sort of computer codes on the oranges, and everybody thought that was the price, so it was a constant source of agony for the people in Brooklyn. Everybody in Brooklyn thinks they know what everything should cost, so down to the penny. So there was this real intense confrontation when something was 5 cents less or more than it should be.
Yeah, that's one of those characteristic Brooklyn things
Oh,
that
yeah.
everyone's got there.
Right.
Coupons.
So looking ahead to 1989, what are the predictions for the world in 1989? What's going to happen?
What's going to happen in 1989?
No, we
I
look
don't
to
know.
artists for these sort of things. It's fingers on the pulse.
Right. Well, we don't really know what we're going to be doing in 1989, so
It's hard for
it's
us
very
to
difficult to
predict.
expand outward to what the entire world is going to be doing.
We're gonna have a brand new funky president, and it's gonna be
It's going to be pretty
really,
unpleasant.
really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. But we knew that, and that's okay. We've gotten
We
over it.
predict a brand new funky president.
So I noticed about President Kennedy on this album. Is this an introspective, historical sort of thing you're getting into?
Well, you know, I mean, basically, we're like sort of hippie kids, so everything we do sort of revolves around trying to get used to a non-60s
Right. The
world.
post-Kennedy
I mean,
world.
basically, like the 70s was like pretty much a shock, and the 80s has been, a period of transition. So, we're just trying to get over 1968, really.
Right.
Let's look back at the 80s for a second. I want to sum it up in just so many words.
I think it's going to seem smaller and sillier as we get farther away from it, and it seems pretty silly right now. So
Yeah.
it's disturbing to think about.
It's kind of hard to wrap up the 80s in 5 words, but you sort of wish someone would just wrap it
Go ahead
up.
and do it. Yeah.
I mean, can we say World Trade Center? Can we say designer clothes? I mean,
World Trade Center was the 70s, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
right, you are. How about, can we say the Trump Tower?
You could say Battery Park Plaza.
Nice. I don't know. What happened in the 80s?
I see. The thing is that in 1980, when we were starting to think about what we're going to do with ourselves, it seemed like the 70s was the period that we were going to be kind of getting over and, building a better world from,
Yeah.
like building this city